Today, our podcast, Women in Retail Talks, is coming to you live from our On the Road event in Dallas. And joining us today for this fantastic conversation is Wanda Gierhart. She's the Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing and Content Officer of Cinemark Holdings. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you here, Wanda.
I'm excited.
I've been wanting to have you come.
I know. We've
for
been talking
many
about
years.
it for years.
And Kathy
great.
helped us
Yes.
put us together. But I feel like you're such a Dallas celebrity, actually. So let's start a little bit with your background. Where did you grow up, and who were some of your key influencers?
Not undifferent than Sharonda. I grew up in South Dakota on a ranch, on a farm and a ranch. And I think, family is what I've learned, even in all of my leadership, building teams, is get to know people and where they come from, because it forms and it shapes who you are, right? My dad was probably one of my biggest influencers. Just loved the land, had a passion for what he did, hard work, perseverance, grit. It's not easy. We all had jobs as children. I was the youngest of 5, so I became super competitive. Because to get attention as the 5th child, you had to go above and beyond.
Right.
So I think, I got my competitiveness from that. I just got my curiosity for the world, because growing up in South Dakota, which is a state of 600,000 people,
right.
It can be lonely. Your brothers and sisters are your best friends. And we would take family 2 to 3 week driving vacations, because my mother had 10 brothers and sisters, and my dad had 8.
Oh my goodness. So you're Jesse family.
We would take these 3 week driving vacations across the country. I always was the map reader, and I picked out all the exciting places to go visit. So I think it's just that wanderlust started then when I was young.
So cool. And what did your father do on the ranch? Was he a farmer or?
Cattle, registered Black Angus.
Wow.
He raised some of the first organic beef and sold it to Whole Foods.
Oh my God, that's so interesting.
It's crazy.
Wow, that's so cool.
Pioneer.
Yeah. Wow, so great, so interesting. So that's going to sort of take me to my next question, which is, how did you end up in the retail industry? I mean, coming from such an interesting background, maybe you would have done something with agriculture or something. So tell us a little bit about that.
So it's kind of a long, circuitous story. So I went to University of Nebraska, was recruited, became a finance major. So I always wanted to be an art or music major.
Right.
And my father was like, you will never make any money in the arts. And he goes, so you need to do a business degree. So I became a finance major, and then recruited off campus to work for Ross Perot Sr., a Dallas icon, at EDS, a company in the late 80s. And I did finance and accounting and learned to program in COBOL that doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
And all of that was, killing my inner creativity, because I had to wear those black and blue suits of the late 80s. You all are too young to remember that. But with the bow ties and the white shirts. And I really just, it came to a point in that program for all the training, and I took it for the wanderlust, because I got an international rotation. I lived in London.
Oh, wow. And
then at the point, you have to sign a document back then to work another 3 years. It was like the military, where you had to pay the company $25,000 back. And at 22, I was like, $25,000 is too much, and it's killing my creative side.
Yeah.
So I went and interviewed with Roger Horchow. And I walked into the building. People are wearing shorts and T-shirts. There's folk art on the walls. And I'm like, this is it. And no one had a computer yet. I'm like, they need me.
Yeah.
So I went to work at Horchow, and the rest is history. But I think I liked, I've always liked retail, because it got that business and creative side is what I like about it. Like, in college, I worked at Ben Simon's, a department store in the mall, and I did the visual merchandising of the windows.
Wow.
And all the displays in the store. And then I one day was in the mall when I was working on windows, and I saw a limited brand window campaign, and it was for Outback Red, if anyone remembers that.
Does anyone remember that?
And this amazing image, and I'm like, someday I want to be the CMO there and do that job. And 11 years later, I was.
Right. That's awesome. That's so cool. So now tell us how you, let's talk a little bit about your career in retail. So you just talked a bit about it. You've had so many positions at leading brands. So I'd love to hear some maybe leadership lessons that you learned over the years from your different positions moving up.
Yeah, so in all my positions, I was the CMO of limited brands, EVP of marketing and merchandising at Design Within Reach, and then I did a president CEO job of a .com, Travelsmith under Barry Diller's IAC. Then I moved to Dallas and became the first CMO at Neiman's. But through all of those were a lot of lessons to share because I worked for large companies, small companies, startups, and it all takes a little bit different leadership. But when you morph those things all together, and then when I joined Cinemark, it's nice when you've worked in so many places because now I can take all those learnings and then you can kind of like put it on speed dial and really, get a lot more stuff done. So I think probably the primary, it's a few handful of things. I think set your vision and your mission for what you want to accomplish with your team early on, but don't do it before you listen to the organization. And I spent a lot of time, especially at Cinemark, I probably had one-on-ones with 75 different people across the organization in all different disciplines and all different levels to really understand what the issues were, what the direction was. I read all the past research. And then from there, I was able to set, what's my plan? What's the roadmap? So I wrote out for the board a 3-year roadmap and what budget and what team it would take to do and what's that vision in the end state that would look like.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the first thing. And then very quickly, while you're doing that process, assess your teams. I think you really have to I like to say, get the right people on the bus as quickly as possible. We are all only as good as the people around you. I hire people that are much smarter than me. That's another motto. And you really just coach them, nurture them, give them the tools they need to be successful, right? Because it's teamwork. No one can do anything alone. And I guess the third thing would be cross-functional partnership. And I had to learn that, honestly, as I went to all these different jobs in different organizations. You really can't get your work done unless your cross-functional peers are your best friends. You literally have to make the time to understand them on a personal level, understand what their goals are trying to accomplish, how do your goals that you want to accomplish tie in with their goals, so it's a win-win for everyone. But I can't stress that enough. No matter if you have all the other things, you will never succeed unless you can work well with your cross-functional department heads in your job.
I mean, those are amazing. They all sort of focus on the power and importance of communication and having good communication skills.
Yeah.
But I do love the idea of, you obviously come into a new company with a vision, but it's most important to get the feedback and understand the company before you sort of force that agenda on.
Yeah, right.
So that's really interesting. And I love the cross-functional teams too, because they're just I know from my experience, they're as much part of your team, as being a different department.
And as you go up in the ranks, you have to influence cross-functionally, right? Even though they don't report to you.
Right.
So how can you ask someone to believe in you or understand what your initiatives are if you haven't taken the time to understand what theirs are?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I just think that's so interesting. So you mentioned Neiman Marcus actually coming here to Dallas, and I think that's so interesting that you were the company's first CMO. So they never had a CMO.
No.
And did you craft the role, or tell me a little bit about that? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. So part of it, impetus was it was in the depths of the recession, 2009. I think Neiman's had probably negative 30 comp store sales because luxury really took a dive.
Yeah.
And really, it was set up as all individual companies. A lot has changed since. But when I started, it was .com and catalog back then had their own president, their own marketing teams. Stores, Neiman stores had their own president, own teams, marketing, merchandising, planning. Bergdorf Goodman had its own teams. Last Call had their own teams. Horchow had its own teams. So they hired me to be at the Neiman Marcus group level. And my job was they had stripped out, they had taken all the marketing strategy, e-com people out of all of those organizations and just basically left merchandising and planning and store operations. And put all of those people, so like 350 people, under me. They did it 2 months before they hired me. And then they brought me in and they cut 20% of those people because it was the depths of the recession, right? Brought this whole organization in together. And then I came in and none of them knew how to work together, what to do, because they had switched, right? And they no longer sort of had their pyramid heads to go to. So, I spent my first year, a lot of doing people and process, right? It's like, how do we get our work done? How do we support our clients? So it was kind of, I reported to the CEO, and then those presidents of all the brands reported to the CEO, but yet I controlled the marketing budget. So it was a lot of skill in negotiating. I had to negotiate across where we felt the best spend was of the marketing dollars across brands.
Negotiation is such a hot topic. Do you have any, I'm sort of throwing you off here, but do you have any sort of best practices around negotiations or what to do?
I learned a lot in that job. So I think I've tried many different things. What ended up to be the most successful, because a lot of the negotiations we were trying to be, and I'll get to this in a minute, but we were trying to be omni-channel. It's the very beginnings of omni-channel. Because the .com Neiman's had separate inventory, separate buyers. Neiman's stores had separate inventory, separate buyers. So .com could have purchased way too much inventory in Theory or Vince or 20 different brands, and the stores didn't. And .com wanted to put it at 30% off. And I'm like, well, the customer is starting to see us as omni-channel. They're going to expect to go into the store and get the same discount. So it's kind of, so we started a cross-functional, cross-brand promotional calendar, and it would literally get down to, negotiating. I'd be like, okay, I would get both presidents on the phone, and I'm like, all right, so you want to take 30% off over here. You don't have that much inventory. Is there a compromise?
Right.
Like, is there something you're worried about on inventories 2 weeks from now that maybe over here you want to help? So I think it's just bringing, I've learned to become really good at bringing people together and discussing problems, because we all have the best interests, because we all got bonused on NMG.
Right, exactly.
So let's try to find a solution that works for everyone.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. That's so interesting. That must have been challenging. So then you were at Neiman for a while, and then you sort of moved into consulting for a little bit. So I'd love to get your perspective on that. I'm sure a lot of folks in the audience, or maybe even listening, think about consulting as a possible career. What was that like for you? And
so I left Neiman's and I thought, I'm going to get on paid boards. I'm going to be consulting. This is going to be my new life, right? I already was on one board, and I did a lot of charity boards in Dallas. And, I started down the consulting path. I got a couple projects just with friends. But what I soon discovered is while you're working on your current project, you have to be constantly networking for your next project. Because say that project lasts for 2 months, you're always prospecting for the future and networking. And then what it came down to, sometimes I would get too much work, so then I would have to hire subcontractors, or I couldn't get the work done. And then pretty soon I'm like, I'm just running another department in a company, so I should just go back and do that.
Yeah.
Because it's, I would have had to have started my own business, hired people as employees, built that up, and then maybe sold it someday to a consulting practice. And I'm like, do I really want to do that? And I missed
being with your team and stuff.
Yeah, I really miss starting a project and having a vision for it and seeing it all the way through to the end. So when you're a consultant, You can do your very best. You come up with the best strategies, and you hand it off. There's a wall there on some of it, and some of it they choose to do, and some of it they may not choose to do, or, you know, I like seeing it all the way through. I learned that about myself through that process.
Right, that's so true, because you're just working on a specific project. You're not part of the entire solution to the problem that they have. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So then you came to Cinemark, and you're doing so many exciting things there. When did you start at Cinemark?
2018, January.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that movie theaters had sort of a hard time during the pandemic. So I'd love to hear about how you were able to work around that, because you were there right during the pandemic.
Yeah, right during very tough time for our industry and many industries. But I think coming through the pandemic made us all stronger together as a team. I would say there's probably 3 or 4 key things. One was two-way communication. We talked constantly to our employees, and we talked constantly, I see some fellow Cinemark people nodding their heads. We talked to our employees, and we also talked to our customers, and then we would tweak what we had approached from doing that, right? And then anticipating needs. We knew that, you know, movie theaters have big audiences, big auditoriums, lots of germs in those days, right? So we really implemented I learned more about HVAC than I ever want to know.
You ever knew
but all of these clean and safety initiatives, and came up with a campaign to talk to the customer about that. Frictionless journey, as almost probably everyone in this room put into place to buy your tickets and pick up your mobile concessions. And then I think the other thing is innovation. It caused us to take things that were on the roadmap. One, we didn't have on the roadmap, but was an idea in a brainstorm, and it was to create private watch parties. Again, it was listening to the customers. They didn't want to sit in an auditorium with all hundreds of people. So could I rent an auditorium, bring a bunch of my people in my bubble, and come watch a movie? So from idea to the inception, I want to say only took us 10 days.
Wow.
We used the MarTech stack to solve it, and we were able to launch that product. So for $99, you could rent an auditorium, and that actually allowed us to keep our employees employed.
Wow, that's amazing.
Kind of amazing. And then we did mobile concession that had been on the docket. It was on my docket when I started in January 2018. I'm like, they should be able to buy their concessions online. But it really forced us as a company to do it and get it done. And then I guess the last thing is what I talked about, one of the most important things in an organization, cross-functional communication. I think it really forced us, myself and all of my peers, and I think all the levels below, all have a different level of respect for each other. I think when you go through a crisis like that. And we all communicated on, 2 or 3 hour calls 2 times a week. And through all of that, and we brought back alternative, content, retro content. We had private watch parties. We just made up events and things so we could keep talking to our customers, right? And all this communication. And really what was great about it is we were able to keep our general managers at the theaters employed, most of the home office, some field staff, but we paid the variable cost of those people we were able to cover and burn less cash than had we shut our theaters down. And some of our competitors shut our theaters down, and because we took this proactive people stance, we really were able to gain market share coming out of it.
That is such a great idea. It makes so much sense,
Yeah.
Having a private party. So, and you have an interesting role there. I know you sort of, you're not only dealing with the marketing for the actual movie theaters, but for the studios. Is that correct? So what are some interesting projects you're working on? Probably something with Barbie, I'm sure.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, so I run content and marketing. So if you equate that to the retail world, it's probably similar to planning, merchandising, marketing, and e-commerce functions is under me. So We work with Disney and Sony and Paramount, and in those studios we're negotiating which films are on the slate, how many theaters are they going to be in, how many screens. So it's like planning products on the shelves that you all do.
Right.
It's not unsimilar. And then we negotiate with all of the studios on the marketing dollars. We do co-programs. Are we going to bring Q&As before a movie, promotional dollars? We sell our trailer time on our screens, those trailers you watch before. So we sell those to all of the studios to market their movie and all of that advertising space.
Right.
But really just trying to drive innovation with them and content, but create experiences also that get people out to see movies and package things together. We're doing a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing you have to go see at West Plano. Take your children. It's really cool. We just installed that for that movie that's coming up. And, you know, Barbie. We have the Barbie boxes. How many of you in here went to Barbie? Yes, quite a few. Did you take your picture in the Barbie box? Yes, yeah, so we do. So we try to make, you know, we're on the mission to try to make it more experiential. So to get you out of the house and break that habit of streaming during COVID.
Right.
You know, we're trying to up the ante with more food and beverage, and you can buy a cocktail, and making it fun. And
yeah, I mean, to me, it is sort of a retail adjacent industry. Would you say, like movie theaters? I mean, I was
interviewing for the job. A recruiter called me for the job, and he's like, there's this job at Cinemark. And I'm like, entertainment. And I was like, what do I know about the entertainment industry? And then he's like, well, think about it. It's retail. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm just selling movies, popcorn, candy, product, merch. So it's the same concepts apply to that.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, let's talk about the fun stuff. I can't believe we only have like 5 minutes. This has been so interesting. So I know you have a daughter, and we talked about her. So tell me about her, what she's up to, and all that good stuff.
She's a powerhouse in her own right. I'm a proud mother. She is 21. She goes to Vanderbilt. She'll be a senior this year, and she wants to go to law school.
Oh, cool.
So I had a really interesting experience with her. She's writing. She was picked as the honors student for her American Studies degree. She's a double major. And she gets to write a paper with her professors, and she'll be a published Vanderbilt author when she's out. And the paper is about women in leadership.
Oh, that's amazing.
Isn't that interesting? And then her professor, she started working on this paper last semester, and the professor called me, and the whole class did a case study on me and my career, which was
that's so fun.
Such a full circle. So, you know, when I talked to her class, she's like, wow, Mom, I never knew you did that. I'm like, you never listen. So it was a fun experience. But she's wants to be a lawyer, and she'll go on, and maybe she'll be eventually president of the United States. I think it's one of her goals.
That's so cool. And then I know you recently got married,
it's been 4 years, right before COVID. So I feel like,
to I guess he's like a well-known restaurateur in Dallas. So why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
So I married a celebrity chef, Dean Fearing.
Does everyone know who he is?
At the Ritz. He has Fearings. Probably been to the Rattlesnake Bar. I have to say, I have never cooked a meal in the last 4 years.
Wow, you're lucky.
The best thing that happens, and we get to go to a lot of amazing food events and just activities. But he's been awesome.
Invented tortilla soup, right?
Yeah, he's known as the godfather of Southwestern cuisine.
Yeah,
he brought in like all of the ingredients from the Southwest, like Chipotle's using cilantro now. He's like, I made that.
Been there, done that.
I brought that to the United States and made that in the food to broad America. But yeah, so it's been great.
That's awesome.
I love being, my ex-husband was a CFO, so I went to the exact opposite.
Yeah. Okay, so we have just 3 rapid fires.
Yeah.
We only have 4 minutes. This has been so fun. Number 1, what is your leadership philosophy, if you had to use one word?
Oh, gosh. Let me think. I think be your own advocate and be good to people.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. What would you say is your superpower?
Intuition and bringing people together. I think I've learned over the years you have to bring teams of people together to solve problems.
Yeah. So
And
true.
having a good intuition about where the customer's going, right? And I'm a student, so when I shop with my family, they're like, do you ever relax? Because I'm in a store and I'm like, oh, that display is so terrible.
Right.
They could be doing this so much better. And so I'm just always a student. Every time I'm out anywhere, I look at the design, I look at how they display things, inventory. I can't help myself.
Yeah. And then finally, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to this year, next year, personally, professionally?
I'm going on a food tour with my husband.
Oh my God, that
we're
sounds
going
amazing.
on a really small ship, and we're hosting, and we're going to the Greek islands and Turkey and Italy and Sicily. There's still a couple spots available if anyone wants to come along. It's going to be fun.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It was so great to chat with you,
Yeah,
finally.
thank you.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please go to womeninretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review our show. Lastly, if you're a female retail leader interested in joining our community at Women in Retail Leadership Circle, visit womeninretail.com/apply. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.